My Wife's Movie Club watched What the Deaf Man Heard, a 1997 Hallmark movie about lying. This movie starts off with a tragic and horrifying event which leads to a child who pretends to be deaf and mute for 20 years. Others are comfortable around him, which allows him to overhear secret conversations. After 20 years of deception, he overhears something that is dangerous and he cannot ignore it. He surprises the town by speaking to give a testimony against the evil perpetrators. The movie raises a question about honesty and what are the repercussions of dishonesty. Sammy remembers the last words his mother heard are to be quiet and not talk, not even one word.
Not one more word out of you. Not one.
When he wakes up in a strange new location without his mother, her words echo in his mind, and soon he finds out that when people think you're deaf, they will be more honest and say what is really on their mind. He says it's like a power that he has, like an invisibility of sorts. In other words, the child values his fake deaf and mute status because he believes it makes people more honest around him. He values the truth, just not enough to give it himself. So Sammy lies to or deceives everyone from this moment on for 20 years. Now, you could argue it is just a lie of omission only, but it's not. He is playing a role. He is actively misleading people. So that means every time he is making a large amount of noise, interrupting meetings, or being difficult, etc., he is doing this intentionally. He knows exactly how it will impact other people. And the lie is not harmless. His schooling, his relationships, they're all affected by this. His development of his vocal cords would probably be affected, I would assume. His ability to speak, his livelihood should be impacted by this thing. The movie doesn't really go into that, though. Think of how affected his pseudo-adopted parents. Think of all the missed opportunities, the misplaced sadness. When they find out he could hear and talk the whole time, feelings of betrayal, regret, deep, deep hurt. But there was some good that came out of it, right? He exposed the church treasurer for embezzling money. Seriously, was all of it worth it? 20 years of deception to expose Tolliver's embezzlement, resulting in 2 years in prison. And the fact of the matter is, he was already discovered. There was plenty of evidence to prove his guilt without the testimony. And the testimony of one person rarely would convince a jury without a paper trail and real evidence. But Sammy is not the only fake in this movie. He's not the only liar. Norm Jenkins withholds information from Sammy about his biological father. He keeps this secret for years. He robs Sammy of his true family, who, we think he's lucky to avoid. So his intentions may have been noble to protect him from the, wicked stepmother and his terrible half-brother. But it also could have been selfish, to try to create a replacement family for himself after his wife and son were lost in the war, to the Spanish flu. Norm's deception seems less egregious as he does reveal at the right time the truth and is the one who has shown the greatest kindness to Sammy. Archibald Thacker and family are Harvard-educated businessmen and moonshiners. On paper, he is a white Atlanta lawyer with 2 businesses, but he pretends to be happily poor to blend in. And people think he's just getting by. So, he's a fraud, lying about his wealth and employment. He also lied about a swamp property with an elaborate scheme to fraudulently raise the price of this land. Sammy also sees they are planning to store some of their moonshine in the new large baptismal font at the local church. Let me stop you there. This is possibly the most contrived plotline ever. Extremely stupid. It's just silly and nonsensical. How would they even get access to it? What is the method of extraction? What have they not heard of barrels, bottles, cellars? And who stores alcohol in open containers? Even if this was the process of fermentation for their moonshine, and they were trying to get, because it has to have air for the fermentation process, it's a mistake to leave it open in this way, right? It would invite bugs, pests, contaminations of all sort. What if they actually baptized in it? And also, if it is moonshine, the church is filled with sunlight. There's all those glass windows. The light would come in and spoil the moonshine. Sammy also hears the frustration of Perry Ray Pruitt, the priest. He seems to be holding back information about his religious understandings. His interest really lies in football, although it doesn't seem like Sammy is the only one who notices the odd sermons and requests for the baptisms. And as previously mentioned, Sammy learns Tolliver's deception and illegal activities. As the church treasurer, he practices embezzlement to pay for his money-making schemes. All of these characters are liars, and from a certain perspective, they are just lies of omission, protecting themselves, not attacking others. We all withhold information, don't we? No one wants to hear it all, and we can't expect everyone to tell us everything, so maybe the messages don't jump to conclusions. In the end, in Hallmark fashion, the bad guy gets his comeuppance. Tolliver's mother dies, he loses his inheritance, and goes to jail. Did the punishment fit the crime? I suppose in the movie we are to like Sammy and not Tolliver, so it's okay. But remember, the villain is not the one who murders Sammy's mother. It is not Sammy's cheating but now dead father. The villain is Tolliver. I think I learned the biggest crime in a Hallmark movie is to be a jerk. From a different perspective, this movie is about a boy whose mother is called Miss and not Mrs. And when his mother, the only thing he has left in his life, is violently taken away from him, he hides himself amongst others in silence. A kind man and a strong woman care for this damaged boy for 20 years, and what started out as a useful lie is now a lifestyle, and he's having a hard time breaking away from it. The story is about a man who knows all the town's secrets, who finally talks when it becomes important to. Is this somehow a heartwarming and fun movie, where good wins in the end and evil is punished? Our hero finds true love and rides off in the sunset in a bus with his love? Or is that just another lie?
The key to getting rich is to appear happily poor. Just blend in and bide your time. Look upon these little items as stepping stones.